Hello everyone, Seth here from Cubicle Productions, and welcome to part 2 of the director's chair for my German short film Der Rückfall. In this episode we're going to talk about production, the actual process of shooting and working with the actors and the cast and the crew on actually making the movie and getting the footage. So, we'll start with shooting itself. We shot Der Rückfall over the course of 4 days. 4 days of shooting. I keep forgetting. One day was in the band practice room for the interrogation segment of scene 1. 2 of the days were spent in the conference room in the administrative building for the psychiatrist scenes. And finally, we did one large day of filming for everything that was in this room, which was scenes 2, 4, and 5. So 4 days of shooting. I keep thinking it was 3, but it was 4. And it wasn't really that, and that resulted in about 10 or so minutes of total footage. Now, of course, because we only did this in 4 days, there's obviously some time constraints. First of all, a lot of people had schedules that I had to accommodate. We had some in-season athletes that were always at games, so we couldn't film after school. There were some people that were actually going to be gone on vacation, so actually we shot the interrogation scene first because Tommy, who played the part of the interrogator, was actually going to be on vacation for the rest of the shooting days. So we actually got him first. We took care of that. But even then, we only had about a half hour to shoot the entire interrogation scene. And when people start going out into the hallways, you can hear them. And of course, you'd be hearing English when it's supposed to be German. So we only had a certain amount of time to shoot that. And actually, we were forced to cut out some of the shots, including the guards that were supposed to drag Klaus out of the interrogation room. Which is where kind of we segue into how the script changed. Because of time constraints, there were some parts that we couldn't shoot, like the guards. I think the guards were probably the most notable example of that. But for the most part, we kind of kept everything together. We shot everything kind of out of order, but that doesn't really matter when you piece it all together and, put it back in order. And the only thing that changed within the script was the guards. And I really wish I could have had them in there because they're in the behind the scenes and we have all of that. But it didn't happen because of the amount of time that we had to shoot. Now comes to shooting a film in a different language. Obviously, since German is not my first language, I don't really have a mastery of it. And planning the script was difficult. Shooting in German is also somewhat difficult. But thankfully, everyone involved in the shooting they were all German students, so they could understand it. But it's just sort of in general, you go about it like you would go about shooting an English language movie. And you just sort of make use of what you have and the vocabulary that you can use. And overall, I think we did a pretty decent job of it. Now, in terms of equipment, this was the first film where I had a shotgun mic and, a little audio box for recording and the camera, of course, with the manual focus. All of those elements really allowed me to get a better control of my shot. But there were still some things missing, like lighting that I could use to light the shot however I wanted it. Makeup, we didn't really have makeup. I mean, honestly, that's about it. Only the lighting and everything, and, with the rigs. I suppose a camera rig would have been helpful, but big deal. The rig doesn't really count because you can't really fine-tune a shot unless you have a shoulder rig or something like that. But yeah, just the lighting, and lights are expensive, incredibly expensive. And I'm only now starting to look at them because especially the better quality lights that you can get start, ranging up into, $300 for a little light panel, something like this that just shines light. And, Fresnel's, the big spotlight kind of things that you can adjust the angle of, those cost a lot of money. And, the trick is just finding cost savings. And really, lighting hasn't been cost effective for me yet. But I think at some point this summer, I am going to be buying some lighting and a green screen. So I didn't want to use a green screen until I had the lighting to use it properly. But I do know how to use it. So, yeah. And I don't know why I'm motioning at the wall. I suppose because the wall is colored, but not green. So I just really have a pet peeve for green screening that looks too obvious. So, yeah. I want to be able to use a green screen right. But apart from that, that's really just sort of how production went. And, we had, if you weren't in the shot, you just kind of stayed out of the way. So typically you'd have the camera, you'd see the characters, but right outside the shot, there were people, right there that were either part of a different shot or just doing behind the scenes or grip. The room was actually a lot more full of people than it looked on the screen. So yeah, that's just kind of a general rule of thumb for any movie. You're gonna have a lot of people working behind the camera and just outside of the shot. If you move the camera even a little bit, you're gonna catch someone. And I guess that kind of covers part 2 of the director's chair. I don't know how you guys like the series so far, but these are just my experiences directing the short film. And shooting was a particularly difficult aspect of the film. So I guess that just about covers it. Until next time, I'm Seth from Cubicle Productions. Stay tuned for part 3, which will be post-production, where I will really get to talk a lot because I did most of that. But yeah, so I'll see you guys there.